In terms of plant diversity, you know, we are just of the type of business right now where we have one crop per field in any given season, but through the different seasons we'll have crop rotation and bringing in the different plants in that way. In terms of biodiversity, that's huge. You know, being in agriculture on this farm, like, we are just a small part of something a lot bigger, and so we really want to respect the biodiversity, and so ways that we try and work with that is we have, you know, streams and canals that run through the farm, and we make sure that we'll have a buffer zone around those areas. We'll also have shelter belts in place, and we have, you know, a number of wetlands throughout our fields and then also in our pastures as well, and we really want to just leave those alone and let the ecosystems thrive in there, and ultimately it ends up benefiting us with the crops that we grow too.
All across my farm there are areas that aren't farmable. Either they're treed in and they're too rolling of hills and stuff. So there's usually water stores in those areas, and what we found over time that's actually helped out our land. So I've left a lot of areas where we have either barriers where there's grass around the wetlands to help make sure that those wetlands stay in a proper condition for all of the wildlife. So we work hand in hand with wildlife quite often on my farm. There's all sorts of areas where the water is going to be permanent because first of all, there's no way to get rid of it because of the rolling land, but it does help the biodiversity in my area because it kind of builds the habitat and it maintains the habitat that was here before I was even here. So I think it's important to keep those places on my land that are basically the same way they were hundreds of years ago. So I think that's important, and it contributes to my farm, and it makes my farm what it is.
You know, where I live, I have a number of fields surrounding my yard, and I live in what would be, I sometimes like to call, a little prairie forest. And so I have lots of old trees in there, I have my garden, things like that. And so what we've done is we've actually just put in, you know, a stretch of native prairie grass before the field, and so that just allows for a little bit more biodiversity in there, yeah, just protection of the trees and things like that, so it's not right up against the field.